So good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Melak, and I'm a national contact point at the Framework Program Unit at the Malta Council for Science and Technology. And I cover the areas of digital industry and space and civil security for society and the IT. And today, with the cooperation of the Ministry of Economy and Industry and MITA, we decided to come up with this event in order to group up all the activities in terms of funding that are focusing on cybersecurity. So as an introduction, today we also will have a first site at the National Coordination Center, which will be supported by MITA. This is a part of the Cybersecurity Competence Center at Romania, where there will be satellite centers at each member state, and MITA will be representing the Maltese one in order to support the stakeholders in cybersecurity locally. Then will be an intervention from my end where I will be discussing the Horizon Europe and the calls that are within, which are focused mainly on cybersecurity. And finally, we're going to discuss the Digital European Program with Marita Portelli, where she will give us an overview on the cybersecurity topics that are found in the program. So to start off, I kindly invite Joanne De Guara from MITA to start its intervention on the National Coordination Center.
Okay, thank you, Mark, for inviting us to this webinar, and thank you to all who have attended and for being with us today. So I am Joanne De Guara, and I come from the Information Security and Governance Department within MITA. As Mark said, I will give you an overview of what is the National Coordination Center and what is Malta's role in it. So, why has the EU felt the need to set it up, this National Coordination Centers? Actually, the EU has established that security and systems are essential for the society. And so, if there is disruption in these network and systems, disruption in one member state can affect the EU as a whole. At the moment, the European Union depends on non-European cybersecurity providers to provide this expertise. And given the low supply in cybersecurity expertise and to avoid fragmentation and duplication of effort, the EU has decided to embark on this new regulation. Actually, this regulation is to establish an European Cybersecurity Industrial Technology and Research Competence Center and a network of national coordination centers. By this regulation, the center has been established in Bucharest, and each member state has the role to set up a national coordination center. Actually, this regulation will enter into force next Monday. Given MITA's profile with regards to cybersecurity expertise, MITA has been mandated this new role to be Malta's National Coordination Center. Next slide, please. In these slides, what I am going to do is that I'm going to give you a brief overview of what are the National Coordination Center tasks. So first we have to build up a local community. This local community will be made up of industry, technological, academic, and research community, as well as civil society organizations and public entities which have cybersecurity expertise. Moreover, we elect as contact points between the national level and the European Cybersecurity Competence Center. So the National Coordination Center can be seen as a liaison between the local level and the international level. Okay, next, please. Moreover, we'll also be in line with the National Cybersecurity Strategy, in the sense that we will organize events, seminars, and other activities which will be in line with this strategy. Currently, we also take care of the Cybersecurity Malta, which offers awareness and educational campaigns. And obviously, all the activities which we will be proposing will be in line with this as well. We'll also promote and disseminate the outcomes of the work of the network, the community, and the National Competence Center. In the meantime, we are in the process of creating a web page within MITA's webpage, and these outcomes will all be accessible from there. Okay, next. Another one of our tasks is to promote involvement by all the entities. And this, we will be advertising this even on our webpage. And we encourage you here present that you keep up to date and that you will eventually follow us so that you will get to know about how we can participate and become involved in these activities. We are also tasked with taking care of cybersecurity educational programs. Now, at the local level, in the tertiary level, there is no actually a degree that focuses on cybersecurity per se. Rather, cybersecurity is given as modules in another related program. So what we are proposing here, that there will actually be a degree in cybersecurity alone, and this will help us even to encourage students who show interest in this area to actually have an academic program to follow, and eventually increase the low supply which currently there is, not only locally but even in the EU as a whole. So next slide, please. Also, we'll encourage entities to apply for EU funding. Currently, we are seeing the Horizon Europe and the Digital Europe program, but we are not excluding other funds which may become available through the EU. We also offer technical assistance to our stakeholders to ensure sound application and perhaps a better chance of being selected. This technical assistance is done in collaboration with our partners, which are MCST with regards to Horizon, and the Ministry of Economy and Investment with regards to the Digital Europe program. Moreover, since our National Coordination Center will form part of a larger network, we will know what is going on in the international arena, and will be able to facilitate the participation of entities in cross-border projects. Okay, next slide. So our aim is that you as entities, and not only you present, but even by spreading the word around, to contact us so that you will be part of the local community which the National Coordination Center will be building. Moreover, you're always free to seek our technical expertise when applying for cybersecurity related calls in Horizon and the Digital Europe programs, which my colleagues will soon explain what are these calls. Okay, next, please. Currently, the NCC team is made up of 2 persons, Katia Bonello, which is the project manager, and myself. And I am a senior project leader at the NCC. There is even a generic email address where you can contact us, and feel free to email us if you have any concerns, which we might help you with. Now, that's all from my end. Now I leave it up to Mark from CST to go through the cybersecurity related calls in Horizon Europe.
Okay, thank you very much, Joanne. We're very clear. So this is it. Again, I'm not going to introduce myself again. So this is the Horizon Europe, which is the newly launched framework program. The actual work programs have been launched last week. So for those that maybe don't have an idea yet about this program, but We have been doing a lot of webinars this year, obviously going cluster per cluster. And for today's event, we are going to discuss the topics that are found under civil security for society. So in a nutshell, the work programs are part of the pillar 2, but in the other pillars, there are other activities that are supporting the whole research agenda. So in the first pillar, you find any activities that are focused on researchers and researcher infrastructures and even researchers' mobility. In the second pillar, you will find those industrial technologies which have a social impact as well. You can find health, culture, digital industry and space, which previously under Horizon 2020, they were standalone clusters, but now they have been conjoined together in order to provide a better synergetic approach, let's say that. You have climate, energy and mobility, and food, bioeconomy and natural resources and so on. So here you have under pillar 2, and the majority of the calls are found under work programs where there is this challenge driven, which is designed by the European Union. So in order to participate, you need to be part of a consortium, and obviously have 2 roles majorly. You can either be a coordinator or else a beneficiary. But the idea here is to address the challenges that are coming from the European Commission. Under the third pillar, you find the EIC, which is actually supplying funds for innovative SMEs. And then you have also the EIT and the EIA, which in a way are contributing to create synergies between academia and small businesses. In parallel, there are even the Euratom activities and also the EDF, and also the widening participating work programs, which are there for widening countries, which Malta is one of them. So on all, there will be 95 billion euros covering 7 years. So obviously, this is the start of it. So we, as even national contact points, are doing our best to promote the involvement of local stakeholders to participate in this program. So in order to participate, there are obviously some criteria that need to be met. So the minimum participation criteria for consortia is to be 3 minimum entities coming from 3 different member states or associated countries. If there are more associated countries in the consortium, there should be at least 1 member state. As a new rule for the next calls in 2020, all public entities have to have a gender equality plan, meaning that this plan is basically describing how you have gender policies within your workplace in order to participate in this program. In terms of collaboration with countries which may not be member states in the European Union, there is the general annexes, which obviously is always updated in order to understand if a country can participate or not, which is an associated or a third country in the program. When it comes to the type of calls that are found within the work program, majorly there are 3. The first one is the research innovation action. So in this call, we are looking into finding new knowledge. So the TRL level is very low. And for those that don't know what TRL level is, basically a gauge to understand the research level that is being investigated. 1 being fundamental research and basic principles being observed, and 9 is a fully fledged product which can go into a market. So in the first part, the research innovation actions, we are dealing with finding new knowledge, basically work that is being more done in the lab. In this case, the funding rate for both private and public entities is 100%. Under innovation actions, you will find the funding rate, which is different here because the private sector can take 70%, and for non-private public entities, these have 100%. And here we are addressing higher TRL. So here we are looking into the marketability of a solution. So at the end of the project, there should be a prototype or something which is nearer to the market. When it comes to coordination and support actions, these are activities which support the first 2 actions. Basically here, usually these are done to do an event, do workshops, transmit some policies. And in this case, the minimum criteria to apply is you can be either even one mono beneficiary in this case. But in general cases, these CSAs are usually a partnership between industry and even other entities, depending on the call text, because of the call text is describing what needs to be achieved. Let's say there is a CSA on health in Africa. Obviously, there should be maybe an African counterpart. In all the three actions, there also, apart from the funding, which is 170 accordingly, you will also get 25% of indirect cost in order to cover your rent, your electricity, anything which is ancillary to your actual activities. So this, by far, I think Horizon Europe is one of the most programs which has a very high funding rate. So if you are a public entity, you will get 100%, and if you are a private entity, you get 70%. But if you are a private entity, which you are going to participate in a research innovation action, you will still get 100%. So this is the work program for the Civil Security for Society. In the previous framework program, cybersecurity calls were divided on the digital cluster and the civil security one. But now in this case, these are all found under this work program. I have put also the link there. Obviously, this will be sent later. The work programs are out. Consortia are being built. The deadlines are already known. So if you are considering into applying under a security call, cybersecurity call in Horizon Europe, make sure that you approach us in order to help you out in forming consortia so that you can participate in this project. So just, I don't want to go in super mega detail because I have already done the security work program discussion in the previous webinars, but just to give you a little bit of information, the document is split into 6 areas, 6 destinations. Basically, these are like a lighthouse for the particular topics you will find. For example, under destination 1, there will be the research for and tools and technologies for fighting crime and terrorism. Usually these topics are very, very opportune for law enforcement agencies. Even there is an element of forensics and digital forensics there. Then you have destination 2, which is focused mostly on external borders. So this is a topic for any customs, that would be, which is obviously protecting us from any illicit trades going on, even migration flows. So this is a very important topic for border control. Then you have resilient infrastructure. So here we will find topics which are protecting our systems that make our nations alive. That will be the electrical system, the grids, the water supply, even the financial systems. So here you will find topics that are addressing the prevention of any form of attacks, because obviously nowadays terrorists are becoming very, very crafty. And in the second part, you will find also the cybersecurity. Today, we will be focusing on the cybersecurity destination, which is within this program. Then you have the disaster resilient society topics. Here we are supplying technologies for first-time responders like the CPD and other triage units. And finally, we have some activities, the DS6, which is actually focusing on the support of the other activities like in the disaster resilient society, cybersecurity, and so on. And also there's the support for NCP. In a way, you are also interested in any other part of these destinations, kindly come forward. Obviously, we can support you even to look into these topics as well. But today is obviously the focus will be on cybersecurity. For better organization, the topics under the cybersecurity part are split into orientations area. So from them, you can even understand what the topic will be about. So the first one is about secure, resilient digital infrastructures and interconnected system. The second part is on hardware, software, and supply chain. The third is about cybersecurity and disruptive technology, even with the inclusion of quantum technologies here. And then you have the last 2, which is smart quantifiable security assurance and certification across Europe. And finally, human-centric security, privacy, and ethics. So these are the topics. So as I mentioned previously, and I've listed in red, I have the type of action. So immediately you can understand that for example, all of them, the TRL level is quite low. And the budget that is being requested here is of maximum of 5 million. So these are big projects. So when I see a project of 5 million, I'm already imagining a consortium which is made about 10 and 11 entities covering the European geography here. And obviously, these kind of topics have a very heavy element of research. Nowadays, AI is also very predominant in various sectors, even if you can see from CSO3. For example, this is a very interesting topic, how to use AI for cybersecurity enforcement. In this case, I'm already considering that in the consortium, there will be expertise in AI and even cybersecurity. There could be even a hint of the involvement of law enforcement agencies in this case as well, because there's enforcement there. And finally, there's something about scalable privacy preserving technologies for cross-border federation computation in Europe. So for personal data. So this was the first list of the open topics for this year. So the deadline is in this year as well. So these are readily available, so you can start applying for these. So make sure that if, for example, you're interested in one particular topic, kindly come forward so that we devise the best route for your participation. I'm already putting as well the type of topics that you will see in the next round for next year. So yet again, these are split into different sections. You have one about improved monitoring of threats, intrusion detection and response in complex and heterogeneous digital systems and infrastructure. One about hardware, cybersecurity with quantum involvement. Obviously, nowadays, quantum has become very high on the European agenda because quantum cryptography can be used as well for the aid of securing our systems, because nowadays quantum computers can even be used maliciously. So it's best to have a quantum secure system as well. And finally, we have also anything related to validation processes of tools and certification of ICT products and services, because obviously nowadays everything is connecting to the internet, and we need to make sure that everything is cybersecurity safe as well. So certification is another crucial element of cybersecurity as a whole. So these are the topics for next that will be open next year. Currently they are closed, and these were the ones that were which are actually open now, and the deadline is later in the last quarter. So this is the summary. So just to give you an idea for both batches, these are the overall budget there. So there is 67 million for the first year and 67 for the second year. There's a range of what type of elements of budgets can be asked for. So for example, in this case, for the first one, CSO1, the range should be between 3 to 5, sorry. And this means that the total amount of projects that will be actually funded will be around 5, depending on the budget requests. So there's a quite high chance that if you participate in a consortium and you have a very stable coordinator, which is going to submit a very good proposal, there's a great chance of success. The opening date is next week now, 30 June, but obviously consortia are already being forming. So do not wait to the very end. This takes time, especially the network creation is one of the greatest hurdles sometimes. But in this case, the deadline has been shifted because previously it was in about September. Now it's for the 21 of October. And for next year, the deadline is 16 of November. In the meantime, obviously, let's say you are full capacity, you are working on other projects, you can also start preparing for this set as well. Because obviously, sometimes preparation is the key for a successful proposal. This is just to show you how a topic, because obviously I cannot show all the work program here. You can download it and review it at your leisure. So here we have how a topic is structured in the actual work program. So the first part is the actual information. So here I picked up the AI for cybersecurity enforcement. So a description on what type of budget is being submitted here. So the European Commission is going to pay around 3 to 4 million. This meaning that the European Union recognizes that efforts need to be on par with those values, or else the challenge will not be achieved. There's a description of what type of action. So this is a research innovation action, meaning that the TRL level needs to reach TRL level 4. So this is a very a good summary of what the topic is about, but then we need to look into what is being requested by our end. So obviously, one good thing about this project is that the consortium has to come up with the solution. So although it's a top-down approach, because the challenge is written there, the consortium has the ability to be innovative, to provide a very good solution, which is innovative breakthrough, and obviously will elevate the European Union science research area to a next level. So as long as you are exceeding or even achieving these results, it's up to the proposer, the coordinator, to come up with the solution. So the first thing first is to address the expected impacts and the expected outcomes. And then there is the scope. Obviously, in the scope, there is much more detail and what needs to be achieved. One important takeaway that you need to focus on is that when you are applying, you cannot forget policy. Obviously, these type of challenges are backed by policy, like the Green Deal, or like in this case of cybersecurity, there's the NIS directive. So if there is a reference to any document which is pertaining to the area, like for example, in this case, AI white paper, EU security strategy, and so on, make sure that when you're writing the proposal, you show that there is direct link with the activities that you're going to do. So that the European Union is very keen to fund your project. Do not present a project in your own insularity, let's say that. Obviously, this text, as you can see, it's quite explanatory, but in a way, you can consider that it's quite a giveaway, in what sense? Because for 3 to 4 million, actually, this is the description of the whole project. So it's up to the actual proposer to come up with the best solution to make sure that is addressing what is written here. So this is an example of how topics are in the work program. Obviously, look into the work program in order to have more information. If you require, obviously, more guidance, kindly come forward and I will support you. Another way of finding topics, unfortunately, it's not updated yet. This is the work programs were uploaded last week. There's the funding and then there's portal. So make sure that you know about this. You can search through inputting keywords. You can, let's say you have other interests, AI maybe, or big data, IoT. Kindly go on this portal, click there, put in your keyword, and you will find the whole list of the topics that are not only under civil security for society, but from the whole clusters. Because obviously nowadays digital technologies can be implemented under different areas. One important event that I would like to mention, obviously, as I mentioned previously, one of the greatest hurdles could be to find partners. And the European Commission organizes these events. In this case, we will be having first an event which is describing the area. Obviously, they will go into the work program and the type of calls and so on. And obviously, the link is there. But then there is also the brokerage opportunity, meaning in brokerage events, you can meet other interested parties that are looking under the same call. So register there, put your profile up of your entity or of yourself, and try to list, if possible, what are your interests. And what happens sometimes is that, first of all, you can look up yourself and start doing meetings with other participants, or else you are contacted from them in order to provide your support in the expertise. So these are two important links that you should look into if you are considering to apply for the course of this year and next year. And finally, this is us. We are the national contact points at the Malta Council for Science and Technology. We cover the whole Horizon Europe. So please come by if you are interested in culture, health, digital technology, cybersecurity, climate, you name it. The whole work program is covered by the national contact point. Make sure that you are following our social presence as well on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and most importantly, YouTube, because we upload our webinars and information sessions so that you can revisit them anytime. But if you require any further information, kindly send an email and we can set up a meeting and the one-to-one, anything that satisfies your exigencies. And finally, I've put some resources of help where if, for example, you're looking into the funding and tenders portal, here you have how to register. And also there's a video how to showing how the registration works. It's a very easy process, but in the case you find some hurdles, this is all explained in these videos. So thank you very much. This was my part, and now I leave this section to Marita Portelli. Thank you very much.
Hello to everyone. Thank you, Mark, and also Joanne for all the information. My name is Marita Portelli. I work at the Ministry for Economy and Industry, and I, at the moment, am the national contact point for the Digital Europe program. So my section of this session will be dedicated to providing some information about the Digital Europe program in general, and with a focus on the cause relating to cybersecurity that will fall within this program. Now, the Digital Europe program is a bit different from Horizon Europe in the sense that Horizon Europe is a continuation of the Horizon 2020 that ran in the previous programming period, the 2014-2020, while the Digital Europe program is a new program that has just been launched in the 2021-2027 programming period. Since it's a new program, it's also lagging a bit behind the Horizon Europe in the sense that while Mark was saying that they have the work programs approved, the calls will be launched, I believe he said on Monday. With regards to the Digital Europe program, while the work programs are at an advanced state, we are still in the process of setting up the coordination committee, and it will only be when we set up the coordination committee that the work programs can be approved. And I don't yet have a date of when the calls will be launched, but I'm here to provide information. It's better to be aware of what is available and the topics that they are going to focus on. You know, so anyone who wants to start preparing or reading or getting more information will be in a position to do so. So I'm just going to go through the presentation. So Digital Europe as a program aims to drive Europe's digital transition or transformation. It wants to improve the EU's digital capacities, making the EU more competitive in the digital arena, and also assisting now the EU in its recovery following the global pandemic. The next slide, please. These are the specific objectives of the whole Digital Europe program. So it focuses on 5 main areas: high performance computing, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity and trust, advanced digital skills and the deployment and best use of digital technologies. In fact, the Digital Europe program will have 4 independent work programs. 2 of these will focus on the specific objectives that will be indirectly managed, so they will not be directly managed by the Commission, which are the high performance computing and the cybersecurity and trust. Then there's a work program dedicated solely to the European digital innovation hubs, and all the other activities are found in another work program. Again, just repeating that the work programs have yet to be approved. On the next slide, please. And so these are the main focuses of the activities in cybersecurity for the coming 2 years. So the work programs that we will be approving will cover 2021 and 2022. Cybersecurity is being seen as the heart of the digital transformation, since the digital products that are put in place. It's important that we have a high level of security and protection to what we're doing. The cybersecurity objective, like I said, will be indirectly managed, and this will be managed by the European Cybersecurity Competence Center that was mentioned by Joanne at the beginning of this presentation, supported by the network of national coordination centers. Next slide, please. So I wanted to give you a look at the budget for the upcoming 2 years. Cybersecurity is getting 260 million euros worth of assistance. Also, please note that all budgets are still indicative at this point. It is divided into actions related to Cyber Shield and the Security Operations Centers, implementation of legislation and support actions. I noted here as well that apart from this budget, there's also another 175 million in actions supporting the deployment of quantum communication infrastructures, which also relates to cybersecurity. The next slide, please. So I made a note here to tell people not to get too excited about the 260 million, even though it seems like a lot of money. These are dispersed through competitive calls, and some of these calls will allow for SMEs to apply. Others are for government departments or agencies such as Malta to set up, for example, the national coordination centers that Joanne talked about. So here in this slide, I just wanted to highlight the different types of grants so that you are aware, even when you look at the work program or the information in more detail at a later stage. So we have the SME support grant that are aimed at supporting SMEs. Usually they cover 50% of the eligible costs sometimes, and there is one of these calls included with the cybersecurity calls. The co-financing rate will be set at 75%. Then there are the simple grants, and from what I can see, this is mostly for the public sector. Maybe they will allow for a consortium also to be formed between public and private, but we will have more information when we actually see the call text. There's also a simple grant to nominated beneficiaries. So when we have something like this, usually the member states nominates a public entity or a consortia, and they are being tasked within that country to implement a certain project. So the grants will be awarded only to those nominated beneficiaries that apply for funding. Then the coordination and support actions, this is usually granted to the implementing bodies such as the ECCC, for example, that would be coordinating some actions to help support the work program. And then there are grants to support third parties, which, for example, the National Coordination Center might apply for, and then issue its own calls or provide some sort of support to third parties. The next slide, please. Yes, eligibility. So as I mentioned before, with regards to eligibility, every call sort of has its own call documents, and the eligibility will be highlighted there. What I wanted to point out with regards to the Digital Europe program and cybersecurity particularly is clause 12.5 of the regulation, which the work program refers to. So basically, there are some restrictions with regards to participation in cybersecurity projects. And the Digital Europe program just wants to make it clear that in the case of third countries that are not completely owned by or completely managed by member states, there could be some restrictions there. So this would be something to look out for if you're forming consortia or partnering with someone to make sure that they would actually be eligible to participate. So the next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to start giving a bit of an overview with regards to the focuses, the focus of the calls. Cybersecurity and trust is being divided into two areas. The first one being the European Cyber Shield, and these are the areas that the calls will focus on. For the purpose of this presentation, I tried to keep the text to a minimum, but I have created another presentation which I have passed on to Mark, and he will disseminate that presentation with the other documents after this webinar, so that you have more information about even like what Mark was showing you before, the scope and the objective of each call, so that you can read through it and see what is of interest to you. So if we can turn the slide, Mark, please. So this is the first action, which will focus on the setup of cybersecurity ranges and the networking between them. So this call aims to build up capacity in member states in relation to reacting in a coordinated way to large-scale cybersecurity incidents. This is an SME support grant with an indicative budget of 20 million, and they are foreseeing that each grant will be of the amount like of 5 to 15 million. Yes. So the second topic is to create and interconnect and strengthen the security operation centers of critical infrastructure or functions at national and EU level. So the outcome will be the deployment of these SOEs around the Union, and this is going to be implemented through a simple grant. The budget is 110 million, and they're looking at 7 to 10 million per grant. Next, please. This action, securing 5G and other strategic digital infrastructures, is offering support to member states, in particular regulators of electronic communications or security agencies, in the implementation of their national cybersecurity strategies and legislation with a focus on 5G security policy. So the national authorities may associate themselves with private providers of technology services or equipment, in particular European SMEs. So this is an example again of a simple grant being focusing on supporting regulators or public entities, and then allowing for the participation of SMEs. The indicative budget is 5 million, and they are estimating that each grant would be 0.5 to 1 million. Obviously, when I'm mentioning these amounts, this is only for the first 2 years of the program. these actions can then continue for 7 years, and there will be another then work program that would provide budgeting for the upcoming years. So the amounts I'm saying now, like the 5 million, would be dedicated to the first 2 years. The next slide, yes, the uptake of innovative cybersecurity solutions in SMEs. So this call will focus on improving cybersecurity capabilities across the EU, support to awareness, prevention, education, and training, and gender balance in cybersecurity, with particular attention being given to sectors that have been mostly affected by the COVID-19. This will be the focus of the first call. And these are SME support grants, and I have listed the indicative budget and the budget that is estimated per grant. I have also created another slide, if we can turn the slide, please. And this provides a list of what the actions under this call must include. So whether you want to skim through them a bit now or take some time to take a look at them later on. And then we come to the last action under this first section, which is to support the health sector, cybersecurity, making it more resilient. The health sector has been put under quite a bit of stress over the recent years, especially with regards to COVID-19. So this section aims to limit the damage of safety critical incidents that safety critical incidents have on hospitals and health service providers. This is also an SME support grant where we're seeing 75% of co-funding for SMEs and 50% for all other beneficiaries. There's an indicative budget for the first 2 years of 10 million, and this can go up to 5 million per grant. So that was the first section, and now we have another section focusing on the implementation of EU legislation with another 4 actions that fall in this area. So if we can turn the slide, we'll start looking at them one by one. Again, I want to remind everyone that we will be providing more detailed information in the other presentation that we will be disseminating after the webinar. So the first one, please, if we can change the slide. Deploying the network of national coordination centers. So this will be something that Joanne and Katja will be looking forward to, this call. This network will contribute to achieving the objectives of the regulation and to foster the cybersecurity competence community in each member state. Up to 1 million is being considered appropriate for capacity building and functioning of the NCCs over 2 years, and then another 1 million may be requested in the form of financial support to third parties, with the aim of supporting the uptake and dissemination of the cybersecurity solutions. This is the call that will be focused on the nominated beneficiary, which in our case is Malta. There's a 50 million budget tied to this call, and each, as described, each member state will be able to benefit from a maximum of 2 million euros. The next slide, please. This is a coordination support action, which is most likely to be implemented by the ECCC. In fact, there's only one call. The budget is 3 million and grant will be for 3 million. And this project is foreseen to support community building and cybersecurity research, technology, and industrial policy at EU level. The next slide. So here, support will target relevant member state competent authorities, which play a central role in the implementation of the NIS directive, which is the main legislation in this area. So the work program also mentions links to the former CEF telecoms project. So we'll see how those are sort of incorporated into this action. If we go to the next slide, I have shown some objectives that the proposals under this call are meant to achieve. This is an SME support grant with a budget of 20 million, and it is estimated that each grant will be from around 1 to 5 million euros. And the final action, testing and certification capabilities. This action aims to improve the capabilities of cybersecurity certification stakeholders, and NCCs are invited to respond to this call with a view to allocating financial support to third parties. In this case, the National Coordination Center would be applying for funding to then use that funding to support SMEs or third parties with regards to testing and certification. Basically, I went through those faster than I thought. So that's it from my end. I've provided some details of, if anyone wants to get in touch to obtain more information. Hopefully, we will have the work programs approved soon. Maybe we will have some dates with regards to when the calls will be launched. If you need any information at all, do feel free to get in touch with either myself or my director. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Marita. I'm now going to check if there were some questions during the webinar. All right. So there's our links there, right? Is it possible to receive a copy of the presentation? Yes, of course. And the presentation and the links will all be sent to all the registrants that were participating today in this webinar. There's a comment. Thank you for the much comprehensive NCC Horizon. Thank you very much. We appreciate your warm comments. So I think, Sandra, I think we can launch the poll. If there are no other questions, kindly be informed that we are always available for your support, either be from the NCC side, from our end, from Horizon Europe, and also from Marita's. So we are here to support you. Obviously, as you can see, there's quite a selection of activities, obviously focusing on cybersecurity calls. So if you are involved in research or implementation or certification, in a way, we will find your best route for funding. So keep in touch and use our contacts here in order to get involved with any one of us. Anything you want to add, Marita and Joanne, before maybe we close?
Nothing from my end. Just thank you to MCST for the initiative and for your support. I think we've been meeting almost every week to discuss this and various other issues relating to the cause. I think we make a good team. We're trying to coordinate and help as much as possible. So I wish all the participants good luck if they plan on applying for funding and benefiting. It's always a pleasure from people who work in EU funds to see SMEs and government entities benefiting from the funding that the EU offers. And good luck to Joanne when operating now and Katja, the National Competence Center.
All right, thank you.
Or Coordination Center, because I always mix it.
Thank you, Marita. I agree with you. It was a pleasure giving this presentation, because now we have know those of you who are present, well, at least we'll get to know about the National Coordination Center. From our end, we hope that the National Coordination Center will be a success, that you actually reach out to us to form part of the local community, and that we see applications related to cybersecurity, so that we get funding to Malta through these calls.
All right, thank you again. So I think the poll was as well addressed. So thank you very much, and I wish you